Before we get into really the meat and potatoes about what we want to talk about in terms of using forage tests, just a quick review about why we do it. Certainly we know that all hay is not created equal. Visually, we can't determine what we're looking at nutritionally because of the variation due to forage maturity, species, fertilization programs, et cetera, et cetera. Wide range in nutrient content from year to year. So what we're looking at here is a chart of just hay tests that I've received in my office over time. The blue bar on the bottom represents the minimum TDN or energy value of the hay test for that particular year. The gray line or the top one is the maximum TDN value that I saw in that particular year. So you can see there's wide variation from low to high, sometimes as much as 20 percentage points difference between the low and the high TDN values. Similar types of response in terms of protein, a wide range of variation. And so with that much variation, we don't know unless we test where we fall within that line. There's just so much inconsistency, again, due to some of those factors that we talked about just a bit earlier. The sampling of hay is fairly straightforward. We need to use a probe. We want to do a cross-section of the bale. So from a round bale standpoint, that means we go from the sides. If we're sampling square bales, we go from the ends. If you want more information or watch a video, there's a YouTube video. If you search for the MU Hay School hay testing video, there'll pop up a 10 or 15-minute video on more of the ins and outs of forage testing. If you're interested in forage testing labs, you can go to that foragetesting.org website and get a listing of testing labs around the country that are certified and do a good job of providing forage test information to us. The labs actually don't measure a lot. They measure fibers, both acid detergent, neutral detergent fibers, ether extract or fat, nitrogen, minerals, and then if we're wanting nitrates or something like that, they will measure those as well. What we get from that is all those calculated components over there on the right. We get energy values, TDN, digestible dry matter, estimates of dry matter intake. We have a couple of indexes, relative feed value, relative forage quality, that are used to compare lots of hay. So those are calculated values, as well as protein. Those are all calculated things based on those, actually a fairly small number of components that are actually measured. In terms of reading a forage test, there's a couple things that just kind of are what they are: the moisture or dry matter and the minerals. It's important to know what they are, but again, they sort of are what they are. The protein, energy, and the quality indexes are always higher is better. So we're always looking for, again, levels of those that are higher than one and a different sample or whatever. So that's pretty simple and straightforward. The exception to that is the acid detergent fiber, neutral detergent fiber, and that number on the test is a residue. And so lower numbers indicate higher energy and greater intake. So ADF and NDF, we want low numbers. Protein, energy, and the indexes, we want higher values for those. What do really all the numbers mean, and what do we do with them? So what I have here are two hay samples that were taken from the same farm during the same growing season. There was some hay that was cut in May and some in July. So as we look at the May fescue, it has higher protein, lower fiber, higher energy, both TDN and net energy maintenance. So exactly what you would expect versus the July hay. What do we do with these numbers? Okay, so this is where we get into the utilization of these forage test numbers. So in order to kind of illustrate this concept, what I've done is to look at an animal that is really in the same stage of production, but we want three different performance targets. So in this example, I'm using a 1,300-pound cow in mid-gestation, all right? I've identified three scenarios for this cow. A cow that's thin that I need to add body condition on, so I'm wanting to move these body condition score 4 cows up to a condition score 5, which is more optimal for calving. And in the first line there that you see, the plus half BCS per month. So what I'm looking at doing is adding a half a body condition score per month. That's going to equate to probably 40 to 50 pounds, something like that, of actual weight on the animal. As you look down the chart, then just 100% hay diet does not provide enough energy to meet the requirements for this mid-gestation cow if my production rate is that high. Neither are my protein requirements met. So in order to fix that, I've got to feed a bit of supplement, in this case, just shy of 1.5 pounds of distiller's grains, in order to fill that nutritional hole based on that high level of productivity that I'm expecting or needing to get from that cow. Going to the middle column there, I'm still wanting to move my body condition score from 4 to 5, but I'm wanting to do it over a period of 4 months instead of 2. So my productivity rate is going down. In this case, the energy and protein of that high quality hay is probably good enough, and I wouldn't anticipate we want to need additional supplementation there. Certainly if my cow is already in a condition score 5 and she's at maintenance and just kind of hanging out, this high quality hay is 22% more energy than she needs and 18% more protein than she needs. So that's really overfeeding that kind of a cow. So high quality hay to a 1,300 pound mid-gestation cow may or may not need supplementation depending upon what we want that animal to be doing performance-wise. So if we look at the July hay then, the poor quality stuff, and again, the same scenario, 1,300 pound cow, mid-gestation, condition score 4, either adding that weight on fairly quickly, adding additional weight over a longer period of time, or just maintaining the cow. As we look at the cow that I'm wanting to add half a condition score in a month's time, I need to add 4 pounds of corn and 2 pounds of distiller's grains or something equivalent to that in order to meet that nutritional hole, because that hay is only meeting 77% of the requirements for energy and 70% of the metabolizable protein requirements for that animal at that stage of production for that level of productivity. As I move to the right, to the middle column, and I have more time in order to add that body condition, I still need to add some supplement, but it's not nearly as much as extensive, and it's a much simpler, easier kind of a supplement to provide, either 2.5 pounds of corn or 2.5 pounds of distiller's grains, takes care of that nutritional hole. And so again, the level of productivity that we're demanding at a given stage of production can have a huge impact on the amount of supplement that we may or may not need. And as we look at that poor quality hay, if our cow's in condition score 5 and maintenance, and again, just kind of hanging out and doing the cow thing, that hay is just fine, and we shouldn't have to need additional supplementation for that. But we all know that cows don't stay at the same stage of production all the time. So what we're looking at here then, I've shifted the cow just a bit. Still a 1,300 pound cow, condition score 5 at maintenance, okay? But I'm taking a look at mid-gestation versus late gestation. So as this cow gets closer to calving, the increased in nutrient demand due to fetal growth and all that kind of stuff becomes apparent. And so how do these two different hays stack up in these different situations? Again, not adding condition to the cow, but just kind of maintaining her. As we go from left to right across the chart, if I have the high quality hay, mid-gestation, as we've seen, it's way too good a feed for a cow at that stage of production. But as we get closer and closer to gestation, those requirements come up. That hay does allow the animal to be more closely aligned with her nutrient requirements with what the hay has. So again, late gestation, that high quality hay that we put up in May fits that scenario very well. And unless we have weather events or some other sort of weirdness going on, that hay should be fine for that late gestation cow and keep her rocking right along. The July hay in mid gestation, again, is adequate. It's only if we use that poor quality hay in late gestation that we get into situations where we are short of energy and short of protein. And in this case, 3.5 pounds of corn or some similar type of supplement would be needed in order to fill those nutritional holes. So by hay testing and without knowing what the nutrient composition of that particular forage is, we have no idea how to put together supplements or how to feed it or when to feed a certain lot of hay or another lot of hay. And so again, by targeting our poor quality hay when animal requirements are lower, as in the July hay with mid-gestation there, we meet nutrient requirements without needing to add additional supplement. As we get closer to calving, use the high quality hay meat animal demands without the need of additional supplements. So the efficient use of targeting supplementation and feeding the hay to the right groups at the right time really allows us to be more efficient in terms of the feeding programs that we put together, and helps us control cost. If we need supplements, we have a lot of those available for us here in the central part of the United States. We have the byproduct feeds, distillers grains, corn gluten feed, which are both energy and protein supplements. They're a bit unique that way. The grains and soybean hulls are typically energy supplements, as we consider those. And then we also can have protein supplements in addition to the byproduct feeds. We can possibly use high quality forages or cubes, tubs, liquids, some of the convenience feeds, that type of thing. So not only do we need to understand and take into account the forage quality that we're dealing with, when we're putting together these supplementation packages, we need to understand what supplemental feeds we have available, what the cost of those feeds are, and then from the producer standpoint, we need to understand what kind of a supplement can he handle. Can they handle multiple supplements? Can they handle bulk? Do they have bins? Do they have flat storage? Are they feeding with buckets? Are they feeding with the little box mixers or feed delivery things that sit on the back of the pickups? How are they delivering this supplement to the bunk, to the animals in the same amount every day? And so all of those things go into putting together an appropriate supplementation package that's matched to the forage quality that we're feeding based on a hay test. So that's how that all kind of rolls together. It's a little bit different than what a soil test is, because you get the immediate results pretty much of what you need to provide. Forage testing is a little bit more complicated than that, because we've got many more different moving targets. We're looking at targeting animals of different sizes, different production stages, maybe a different level of productivity. So all of those things go into figuring out what kind of a supplementation program that we need and how it can be delivered to those livestock. One of the things that we may not be able to pick up much on a forage test is the issue around palatability, and that's really mold, weeds, some of that kind of stuff that may impact the amount of forage that might be consumed, or if we've got excessive storage losses due to improper bale storage like you see there in the picture. So those are some things that, again, we may run into issues with that we may not necessarily pick up on a hay test. And that's, I guess, really, I hit the bottom of the barrel, I think, at that point. So again, to give you a quick overview there, hopefully, of how and why it's important to take forage tests, and then how that information is used to really adequately put together a cost-effective feeding program for you.
Where will I find the tables for cow requirements, and how do I convert NEM to actual needs?
Okay, I'll do the second one first. Net energy for maintenance is a number that we use to, that along with net energy for gain. Those are numbers that actually our computer programs will use to predict rates of gain. And so again, those are a more accurate representation of the old TDN number that we used to use. So we talk about TDN a lot, but when we're actually formulating feeds and rations, we use that net energy maintenance, net energy gain values in order to do that. And so those are numbers that we, again, plug into computer systems to develop the rations. In terms of meeting or finding out where these nutrient requirements are listed, all of the computer programs that are out there have those inherently in them. There are a couple of pretty good ones. Oklahoma State University in their animal science department has a program called Calculator, which they've updated, which is really fairly easy to use and pretty straightforward to use. It's free, you can download that. And they've made some really nice upgrades to that program. There's another one at the University of Minnesota that is pretty good as well. There are lots of commercial programs that you can use. In terms, if you just want a table of those, I do know that there used to be anyway. I've been around 100 years, so I got all kinds of stuff lurking around in my office. So I've got an old publication out of K-State that has a nutrient requirement of beef cow publication. It's a 15 or 16 page publication that has some of the requirements, TDN, protein, some of that kind of stuff. So it doesn't necessarily get into more of the net energy maintenance and stuff that we typically use anymore. That is out there. Certainly, if you want to go to NRC or some of those other kinds of publications, that's available. But if you're comfortable in knowing how to balance rations a little bit and how to manipulate some of this stuff, I would encourage you to go to that Oklahoma State website and pull down that calculator program. It works really pretty slick. And if you need additional help, the livestock specialist around should be able to do that for you, should be able to help you out.